When you've been married for 7 years, dinner can either be a quiet ritual or a battlefield of words. And that evening, it started like any other. Pasta simmering, candles flickering, my husband Nathan scrolling through his phone while I tried to lighten the mood. My name's Lila, and I've always been the one who cracks jokes when things get tense. The past few months had been strange. Nathan was distant, not angry exactly, but somewhere else in his thoughts. I'd noticed his late-night calls, the long drives after work, and the way he smiled at nothing when he thought I wasn't looking. I wanted to ask, but fear made me bite my tongue. So, I did what I always did when I didn't know how to face something serious. I made a joke. We were eating in silence when I said, half laughing, "If you're keeping a body count of the people you've ghosted lately, you must be leading the scoreboard." I meant it as harmless humor, something to shake the stiffness out of the room. But the way he froze, fork mid-air, changed the air between us. His expression wasn't offended. It was haunted. He set his fork down slowly, his jaw tight, eyes locked on me as if I had said something I wasn't supposed to know. "Why would you say that?" he asked, his voice low, careful. My laughter died. "It's a joke, Nate. You look like you've seen a ghost." He didn't answer. Instead, he stood, walked to the window, and stared into the darkness outside. The streetlights flickered against his face, carving shadows that made him look older, heavier. "Lila," he said finally, still not turning around, "there's something I need to tell you." My heart began to race. For a wild second, I thought he was going to confess to cheating, but when he turned around, his eyes weren't guilty. They were afraid. "You know how I work in data security," he said. I nodded, unsure where this was going. "A few months ago, I took on a private contract, something off the books. I thought it was just cyber forensics work for a corporate client, but it wasn't. It was for a private group. They asked me to erase digital footprints for certain people. I didn't ask who they were, but then one day, I realized one of the files I wiped belonged to a journalist investigating that same group." My stomach twisted. The room suddenly felt smaller, the candlelight too bright. "You're saying someone?" "Yes," he cut in quietly. "And now I think they're watching me. Watching us." I wanted to laugh it off, to call him paranoid, but the look in his eyes told me not to. "So when I said body count, you couldn't have known," he said, shaking his head, almost to himself. "But they warned me that if I told anyone, there'd be consequences." I stared at him, disbelief warring with dread. "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because I thought I could fix it," he said. "I was trying to protect you." For the first time, I saw the man I married not as a distant stranger, but as someone cornered by his own secrets. I stood, walked over, and put my hand on his. It was trembling. "Nathan, we can go to the police." "No," he whispered. "They're already watching. I saw the same black SUV parked outside 3 nights in a row. They know where we live." Every instinct in me screamed to panic, but I held myself still. "Okay," I said softly, "then we don't talk about it here. We act normal." That night, after pretending to sleep, I packed a small bag. Cash, IDs, a few essentials. At dawn, when he whispered, "It's time," I followed him to the car without a word. We drove out of the city as the sun broke over the skyline, painting it gold like nothing had ever gone wrong. 4 hours. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "You must hate me for dragging you into this." I shook my head. "You didn't drag me. You warned me." He looked at me with something like relief, and for a brief second, I felt the same connection we had in the early days. 2 people against the world. We ended up in a small cabin near the coast that belonged to his late uncle. There was no Wi-Fi, no signal, just the sound of waves and the distant cries of seagulls. For a while, it felt like safety. But then, one evening as we sat by the fire, Nathan's phone buzzed despite having no service. The screen lit up with an unknown message. "You should have kept your mouth shut." He looked at me, pale, then at the window, where the reflection of headlights flickered briefly before disappearing. I didn't ask what we'd do next. I just reached for his hand. The man who had once seemed distant was now fully here, terrified but real. And I realized something then. The joke that started it all wasn't about death. It was about secrets buried too deep. We had both been pretending our marriage was untouched by lies, but that night, surrounded by shadows and waves, I learned that truth doesn't destroy people. Secrets do. And sometimes one careless joke is all it takes to dig them up.